Well, it's Saturday morning. I'm taking care of some wax chores. I want to clean out the spinner and dump the spinner wax right into the melter. So I'm going to, I've been pouring out some wax to make some space. This is a job Carrie usually does every morning just to make space in the melter. So I don't have a really high-tech wax melter. I don't have a high-tech wax rendering system. It's pretty basic. I just basically zap out the easy stuff and pile it in blocks, and then I take the slum to a guy who has some specialized equipment to remove the rest of the wax from the slum. But we pull the honey out, and the melter honey has no value to us anymore, so we just dump it down the drain after it cools. But yeah, I'll just show you what I'm up to. Here's a block pulled out yesterday. As you can see, there's a little bit of honey on the bottom, so we're just roughly pulling out the wax. Poured out some honey before I started. The wax cools on the top, and we'll just skim that off and throw it back in the melter, and then after the honey's cooled, it'll go down the drain. I poured out just about 3 tubs this morning, so it's there's a lot of wax in here today. This is the melter. It's very basic. It's just a used sump, water jacket sump that we keep it cooking, and it's melting out the wax here. It takes a long time to melt. Capping is the way we do it here. The slum accumulates, the wax melts and drains. So I have this tap that pulls off the bottom of my tank, which isn't really ideal because I can't tap off my layers. I need another tap above this level here so I can tap out honey and then I can tap off pure wax. But what I do is I just tap out everything, settles into my pail, and then I just pour out, here's some slum here, and I just pour out, most of the slum accumulates and holds on the screen inside, but whatever comes through I catch on this little strainer. Just the system I got, and I just make do with it. Within this valve system here, the wax would solidify within this little bend here. And what Carrie did actually is, before the ball valve, she put a coat hanger and just kind of bent it into this little elbow, and that coat hanger, gets heated up and then transfers the heat into this elbow, and we've never had to use the torch on this elbow to melt the wax within here again. So that's worked really well. Running for about a week now. And look at the granulated honey in here. This is why I have to clean this drum out every week, because the granulated honey accumulates on the outside of the drum and it eventually fills in that baffle. It doesn't allow the honey to flow freely. The spinner's been running really well. The wax is really dry. As you can see, it's about 1.5 inch layer here. Nice and dry on the inside, a little bit wetter on the outside. And fresh right on the top of the drum. As the honey comes in, you get really fresh and flaky here. So it's been running very efficiently. Very easy to chip out. But I'll show you the granulation again. Within here, this is because of the canola honey. We're going to have another week, at least another week. Here's a good profile of the drum. We're going to have at least another week of canola honey extracted until we get the hot drum finished, and then into the second pull will be canola, sunflower, alfalfa. So it won't be as bad for granulation. The last few like on Monday night, on Tuesday night, we got down to lows of 5 degrees, and I left my ventilation fan on in the extracting room here, so it cooled down the honey house. And we were having trouble getting this machine up and running to separate the honey out of the wax. It took a long time. The honey coming in was warm, but the wax within the drum here was stiff. And it took a while for it to loosen up and pull off the sidewall. On Monday we actually had to pull the drum because the wax wouldn't pull off the wall. So it caused us an extra hour of work. On Tuesday, the same thing happened, but we just took a little bit slower to pump the honey in, just a little bit slower, that warm honey, and it eventually loosened up and separated out its layers, and then off we go. So when you're dealing with densities, like the wax and the honey separate out by the use of spinning the densities, just like a cream separator, the heavier will go to the sidewall as it spins, and the lighter being the wax will float on the inside of the drum. And when the slurry coming into the machine is cold, or the machine itself inside, the product inside is cold, it doesn't separate. So that's why it's really important to have that heat exchanger to heat that honey up. I run my honey at 90 degrees or so. I run the water jacket at 120, but the honey coming out is about 90, 92. And that's warm enough to allow, especially when the honey's dry, like we're putting honey through that's 17, 16%. And the separator has a little more trouble separating out the densities, finding the layers with that dry honey. It's nice to have this lift, because then I don't make excuses to pull this drum once a week, and to make sure the thing is tuned up and ready to go for the following week. Because being shut down during production day costs me production time, and I mean, having employees just standing around isn't preferable. I'm just going to clean my hands here. I'm going to show you this layer of honey that's granulated on the inside that's accumulating into the baffles. So you can see within the drum, look at the granulated honey on the sidewall, and then right into the baffle all the way around. So it's narrowing the gap, allowing the honey, like kind of holding the honey up a little bit from flowing freely. See all the granulated honey? So that just accumulates and it doesn't go away. So that's what I have to clean out. That's the biggest thing. The wax will pull away from the sidewall very easily, but it's this granulated honey that causes us the issue, and it blocks up those baffles. See right there, that's completely blocked. So that's what I'm doing. So we've got the first pole pulled off. These boxes are nicely full of bees. Pull the frames, there's just drags of nectar in here. Hardly enough to store surplus, enough to keep the queen going. If we had a little bit more rain, we'd have a better flow going on. To store some surplus to get the second cut alfalfa, this frame is a little bit more. You can see there's lots of bees. We're just lacking a little bit of moisture to have the nectar flow. At any rate, we'll just take what we get.